Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, the Friday, the 18th of July. We've got a match tomorrow. I hope you've watched the countdown to kick off. No, that's the wrong show. That's the preview show. You can check that out with Amorim's Best 11. But we're here to talk about the latest news this morning. Ruben Amorim is obviously the Manchester United manager, but will he get the answer on Bryan Mbeumo today? We've also got Italian links with Rasmus again. Sesko stories, goalkeeper stories, Sancho stories, and also a very interesting get-together in Iceland for Berrada and Wilcox and Sir Jim Radcliffe talking about deals, and apparently it was for Bryan Mbeumo. So where are we this morning? Look, we spoke on the 8 o'clock show last night. We may well have been in a situation where we had a here we go last night. The bid went in as per David Ornstein yesterday afternoon. It's £65 million up front with 5 million in add-ons. So why is this deal not happening? And essentially what we're finding out this morning is what we predicted last night on the 8 o'clock show. I suspect that Brentford still aren't completely happy. Now, that doesn't mean they won't accept it. I think they will accept it. But we were talking about this last night on the 8 o'clock show. It's £65 million. It's not 70. People have been misquoting add-ons for weeks now. Like, we offered 55 plus 7 and people were saying we offered over 60. We didn't. We offered 55. We've offered 65 plus 5. We've offered 65. The add-ons are rumoured to be very hard to achieve. They include team results, i.e. Champions League qualification, etc., not individual Bryan Mbeumo achievements. So Brentford could still say that we want a little bit more. I don't think they will. I was reading, I can't remember what journalist it was. It might have been in the Mail, actually. I might be misquoting them. But there was a journalist this morning saying, Manchester United's transfer approach to this Bryan Mbeumo deal may well lead to Brentford trying it on one more time. And what I mean by that is we've gone from 55 plus 7 to 65 plus 5. We've increased our offer by effectively 10 million up front, and we're still doing 5 million in add-ons. So Brentford should accept that, but could, considering how desperate Man United behaved yesterday, Brentford could say, we're still interested in this Wizard offer. We really do want better add-ons. So that is not meant to be the case, but hopefully that won't be the case, but we'll have to wait and see. Apparently we've got problems with the stream, which shouldn't actually happen, but let me have a quick look. I will whack onto that. Normally it's a lot better than that, so I don't know why it's not working. Okay, what phone is this? No, there's nothing to do with the phone, lads. Shall I just stop the stream if it's not good enough for you, or you know, do you want me to carry on? Okay, we've gone again. Right, we should be back now. Let me know if that's any better. Let's have a look at the chat. Out of sync. Yeah. No, I'm not angry, mate. I'll just, if it's not good quality, I won't, you know, I don't want people to be not enjoying it. It's Friday. I'm in a fine mood. I'm just saying, if it's not good enough, we can stop it. It's absolutely fine by me. I'll go and have a cup of coffee and do something else. Okay. So yeah, back to what we were talking about there. I think with Bryan Mbeumo, it should get done, and we should get a here we go at any point, if we're being completely fair. But we did act a little bit in desperation yesterday, and Brentford might say we want better add-ons than what you're offering up at the moment. So I guess that's something that we might have to just bear in mind, I suppose. But I think they'll accept it. I think 65 million is fair. And I was actually saying to somebody this morning when I was dropping Seb off at school, they were asking me about the Mbeumo deal, and I said if they don't accept 65 million pounds, then we should walk, really. I think that's the big problem that we've got. I think we should walk. Somebody has said, go back to the studio. Yeah, mate, I would be in the studio if I could be in the studio. I've explained 3 or 4 times now that I'm having work done in the house right next to my studio, so I can't be in it in the day. So I can't sit in the studio and do it. So in answer to your question there, you may not have been aware of that. Okay, so we should walk away, says It's DJ Buzzy. We walk away, says Sylvinus. I don't think we will walk away. I think we will get the deal over the line. I'm confident of that. But look, just to explain, there's a lot of people waking up this morning. There's a lot of people this morning saying, why is this deal not done? Why is this deal not done? And I think because we've put a really good offer in yesterday afternoon doesn't mean they have to accept it straight away. I suppose the longer it takes for them to accept it, the more you might get concerned about it. But let's not forget, they are linked to Amari Hutchinson of Ipswich, and they may well be looking to get that deal done on better terms than they might get it done if they wait till after the Mbeumo deal's done. So they might be looking at stuff like that. I'm confident we'll get the deal done, but what I would say is I would walk away if they don't accept this offer, because I think it starts to get a little bit silly, if we're being honest. Michelle says, I think we've taken far too long, Mark, to walk away now. And we are, they rejected the second bid after 24 hours. Look, we could get a rejection. Of course we could get a rejection. But I'm just looking at the scenario as to where it is. And we're looking at why they may not have accepted the bid at the moment. And I think, I think, as we said on the 8 o'clock show last night, those add-ons are somewhat irrelevant if they are talking about Champions League qualification. Let me just say this. The rumour is the offer is 65 million plus 5 million in add-ons, and those add-ons include Champions League qualification for Manchester United. If I was Brentford, I'd say, well, I'm not getting the 5 million add-ons then. And that's not even banter. I would be like, so we're not getting the 5 million in add-ons, because I don't see United in the Champions League anytime soon. I would rather say I'll have the 5 million when Mbeumo scored 30 Premier League goals, because that's probably 2 seasons away. Whereas Man United being in the Champions League might be 5 years away. So I think that's it. Michael says, getting rejected that bid. If they reject £65 million up front, and also let's just remind ourselves as well, instalments, we don't know what the instalments are. So look, I'm confident that this deal will get done because it seems like a very, very good offer. But the add-ons might be irrelevant because they're Champions League qualification based, etc. And the instalments could be stupid. It could be, we'll give you 65 across 5 years, giving you 12 million a year. So there are hidden stories behind the headlines. So we'll have to just wait and see how that one pans out. What do you think about this story about Lammens, the goalkeeper? I've seen a few stories this morning. I don't think they're coming in from the best sources at the moment. And I think the best source for it was the original story a couple of days ago. I think that he's a very interesting goalkeeper. I don't really know loads about him, but obviously I've listened and looked at your chat a lot, and I think there's a lot of people that think that this might be a really interesting profile of goalkeeper to bring into Manchester United, because he can challenge, but also would come in, a little bit younger. A little bit of background around his actual age, because I don't know it. He's 23. Obviously, he's playing out of Belgium at the moment with Royal Antwerp, and he's been well scouted by a lot of people. I think that it's a big step up, but this is, look, the goalkeeper conversation sort of irritates me a little bit, as much as it irritates me with the Jadon Sancho story, because I think that when you look at it, we do need a goalkeeper, and then you start to invest in the story of a goalkeeper, and then it doesn't happen. And that's my irritant. It's like, I want to believe that we might move for an Emi Martinez or a Lammens or whoever, but I don't feel that we will. I feel that Onana will be the goalkeeper. And it worried me today, actually, because Seb was filling in his last day of school journal, and he said, I've put my top 5 footballers there. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting. And he went, well, obviously Messi and Ronaldo, but I've put Ronaldo's better than Messi in brackets after it. I was like, okay, getting involved in that debate very early. And he said, Harry Maguire. I thought, I knew he'd be there. Bruno. I thought, all right, okay. And you'll guess who his 5th best player is? I nearly made him walk to school on his own. It was Onana. I said, Give me that book. Give me that journal. Where's the pencil? He says, you're not rubbing it out. It's not. It's mine. Onana is in his top 5 players, and I thought, here we go again. I remember him doing this with Maguire a couple of years ago. I remember him coming on the stream and saying, I think I just need to have a chat with Harry Maguire and sort him out. And then Harry Maguire had a really good 2 years. So I don't know. There's something, maybe Seb's ahead of the game here. Maybe we're all going to be apologising again, saying, Seb saw it. Maybe Onana's going to have an absolute worldie. I don't know why Onana's in his top 5 players in the world. And he's completely forgotten about Yamal because he loves Yamal. But Onana is in there, which is just crazy. And it is. But I think that Onana probably is going to be our goalkeeper next season, if we're being honest. And I think that's something we're just going to have to deal with, essentially. But Lammens, or a younger goalkeeper, I always use the name Verbruggen because we're not going to get Verbruggen. He's at Brighton, but that was the sort of goalkeeper that Ten Hag wanted a couple of years ago. I think a goalkeeper with the potential. I mean, look, what would you rather have? Would you rather have Martinez? Would you rather have Emi Martinez? Or would you rather have Lammens? Emi Martinez in 2 or 3 years will be dusted, really. But in 2 or 3 years, Lammens might be one of the best goalkeepers in Europe who stays at Man United for a decade. I feel United's preference, probably because of price, is to go with somebody like Lammens, who you can bring in, usher Onana out over the next 18 months, and then he becomes your long-term goalkeeper, rather than going for somebody who's ready now. So I think that may be what we do. The price is meant to be about 15 million, but I think that may be what we might do. Anyway, let me get into some other news, because there is quite a bit this morning to get into. First and foremost, let's just talk about Jadon Sancho. I'm contractually obliged to do it. I feel like it's something I don't want to do, but I have to do it every day. So Corriere dello Sport are reporting in relation to Jadon Sancho. He's one step away from Juventus. The finish line is truly just a step away. Juventus feel they have Sancho in their grasp. Contacts with his agent, spotted in Turin in recent days, have effectively allowed the parties to iron out some details, discussing the severance package that Manchester United has guaranteed to the player. So, look, it's the most dull story around Manchester United at the moment. I felt like we sold him last year, and I feel like it's Groundhog Day. But look, I don't even know. I'm not emotionally invested in this. Like, when it's Brian Mbeumo or it's Garnacho or Rashford, I feel like I'm emotionally invested in, can we get these deals done? With Jadon Sancho, I'm sort of like, oh God, here we go again. But look, there is a lot of noise around Juventus. So hopefully there's something in it. It is Italian reports. But one thing that did strike me today was that we are 2 weeks back for pre-season now. I mean, that's gone in the blink of an eye. It was literally start of last week that these players came back. We're now on Friday of week 2. Those players aren't training. That's 2 weeks. We're basically 12 days 13 days from the end of July. Next week, it starts to get really lonely for these players, because people are flying around the world. Like Asia, United States, all the big clubs are heading on their tours. So if you're Rashford, Sancho, Antony, Garnacho, Malacia, you've got to start thinking at some point, all right, I'm in the famous 5, but you're going to be in the irrelevant 5 very, very quickly, because Amorim is winning. Like, you might think you're not. You might think, oh, I'm picking up my wages, but it's nothing new for Man United. We paid Phil Jones wages for 5 years. He never bloody played. We paid Luke Shaw for 2 years. He didn't play either. So, if you're walking around going, oh, look at me getting paid my wages for doing nothing, so Jim can go, at the end of the day, we do it all the time, champers. So I think that they're starting to lose here, and Amorim's starting to win, because, as I say, the sounds coming out of the training ground again this week are really positive. Now, I can't wait for Amorim's first interview, but we spoke to you last week about how Amorim came back and is really optimistic and positive, and feels that not having Europe could be great for his system. And again, they've had another good week. So they're not looking back at this. And I think that when he starts doing his interviews and the questions get asked about Garnacho, etc., and Rashford, I think he'll just say, refer to them. I'm not involved in that. They're not part of it. So, yeah. But look, hopefully there's something coming in with that Sancho stuff. I've just had a couple of super chats I want to catch up on here. And then I want to talk about this Iceland trip for Sir Jim. The champers on ice. Iceland. Jim's gone to Iceland. Yeah, at the end of the day. Actually, remember like Kerry Katona used to do those Iceland adverts? You could get Sir Jim doing Iceland adverts. At the end of the day, Jim's gone to Iceland. Champers. I wonder if they do. They won't sell champagne at Iceland. He wouldn't walk in there. No chance. Absolutely not. Okay, let's have a look at some of your super chats that are coming in. Mark, it's my birthday today. I want to. Here we go. This is LA Red Devil. You might get one, mate. You might get one. Paul Dignam says, we come here to listen, optimism all the way, bring on the new season, not bothered about Pixel Bridge. Yeah, apologies for that. It was probably my fault for not putting the Wi-Fi on. The 5G is really good, actually. Very good. But it doesn't seem to... I mean, I don't know whether we've got any technophobes here, but my 5G is actually way quicker than my Wi-Fi, but it does break up a bit. I don't trust 5G, basically. I think Wi-Fi is a lot more stable. Maybe I've just actually stated a fact. Balls deep for Sesko if they reject, says Barry McCockiner. That's just two statements I don't want to think about. JR says, I thought Brentford wanted more achievable add-ons and more player add-ons and not team add-ons. I think they might reject due to add-ons, says JR. Do you want to say add-ons again? The fact that this here we go will bring relief as opposed to excitement shows how badly the board have conducted the window. So much for we have a plan, says Obi. Brentford's 70 million looked like it appeared after their bid got rejected on Hutchinson. Ben said that 65 will get it over the line 3 weeks ago as well, says Slow Sports News. I think 3 weeks ago, 60 plus add-ons would have got it over the line, to be honest. Robert McCormack says that the bookies have got us finishing 6th as of now. Yeah, I get that. I do get that. I keep mentioning the word 5th, and people keep taking the mickey out of me, but I have to go. I don't know about anybody else. I said this on the preview for the Leeds game. This pre-season is really, really important. And actually that feeds into something quite nice because this is from The Athletic. There's an article in The Athletic today. For Man United's pre-season, Ruben Amorim is planning to use a reduced squad. This is to try and replicate the upcoming season without European football. Now, I like this. I really, really like this. Now, if you haven't watched the preview for the Leeds game, which is tomorrow at 2:00, it's on the channel. It went up overnight. Only 10 minutes and we've got new graphics. Check it out. But I actually think when you look at that preview, you'll see a team and then you'll see a lot of players like Mason Mount, Aiden Heaven, Agate, Rasmus, not in that team, Luke Shaw. And you go, I don't want this pre-season really to be about, one team can play for half an hour, another team can play for another half an hour, and then another team can play for half an hour. I remember that happening on tour before. We had 3 teams. And I'm like, we finished 15th. We lost the fucking Europa League final. We've got 5 games before the start of the season. And then we've got Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City in the first 8. I actually want to see from tomorrow the system working. And I don't think, we're live. Hello, we're live. I actually really want to see the system working. I don't want to see, it's about getting minutes in the legs. I want to see the system working. I want to see that. I want to see him using a reduced squad because we've got about 20 senior players, whether you like them or not. And I want to see him using them. And if there's 1 or 2 youngsters we can use, like OB or Kone or someone like that, great, or Amas. But I actually think there's way more we can get out of this pre-season if we actually start giving the main players game time from the start. We were so bad last season. This pre-season is so important. We haven't got the players in. So with the players that we've got, don't waste pre-season by giving everybody game time. Actually get them working. Get them working. We've got quite big gaps between the games as well. I think we've got Leeds tomorrow. The next pre-season game is the Saturday. Then there's a midweek. Then it's a Saturday. Then it's the following Saturday. So there's a lot of break. I just think hit the pre-season hard. Hit it really hard. Because what's the most important thing that comes out of pre-season? that we actually play good football. Like, we haven't got a style of play, and we haven't had a style of play for a long time. I think it's so important. That's my take on it. LA Red Devil says it's my 37th birthday. Hopefully, Mbeumo, here we go. In high spirits today. God bless you and your hard-working team. Well, mate, I'm looking forward to a drink tonight. So I'll raise a glass to you. Happy birthday. And I hope we get an Mbeumo. Here we go. There's no reason why we shouldn't, but I'm not going to promise it. We desperately need an out-and-out 6, says Ad Hoc. Bruno in midfield worries me, but fingers crossed it works out. I think that Bruno conversation is going to be a conversation for the whole season. I definitely agree with that. Sean Turner, hope you're doing well, Sean. He says, I know you agree with Sancho being paid his contract by us, but has he forgot being paid for months for mental health? All take, no give, says Sean Turner. So Jim's impression sounds more like Dyche as United start. No, there's a very big difference. I said this last night. Dyche is more like that. It's a little bit more like that. It's more gravel. It's more like, at the end of the day, he's more like Cockney. I don't know whether he is actually a Cockney, but that's Dyche. So Jim is more posh. At the end of the day, I speak like this: plums and apples, champers, fizzy lemonade, strawberries and cream, rollers. And I'm not talking about the things you do to paint your wall. Rolex, Wimbledon in your shorts, running on a Sunday morning round Central Park. So there's a big difference between. I could do a conversation between Dyche and Sir Jim. You'd see that he'd hear the difference. Really, somebody actually last night sent me a picture of a T-shirt with Sir Jim on and champers and said you should sell it. I said, I don't know whether Sir Jim would be happy with this. He might see the funny side. He's very welcome on the channel anytime he wants to chat. Really excited for next season. Got season tickets, says Reflex D. My son said the same, but we have seen good goalkeepers, but they know best, says Calvin Stewart. Thank you, Calvin. Where did you get that Beckham print, please? It's actually metal, and it's from Display. No, not Display. Somebody will know it in the chat. They're metal things. The reason I have metal is because it doesn't reflect the light. So yeah, nice. I've got a Cantona one as well somewhere. United win the league every time GTA comes out. When's it coming out, Faisal? Because we ain't winning the league this year. Ain't never gonna happen, bro. No, never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. Okay, let me come back to what I was talking about. So we were talking about Ruben Amorim, weren't we? And his desire to use a reduced squad, which I think is really positive. Also, this bid that went in was from Iceland. So Sir Jim Radcliffe, Omar Berrada and Jason Wilcox are actually in Iceland for 2 days ahead of Manchester United's pre-season clash with Leeds, which is in Sweden. This retreat allows for in-depth discussions on both sporting and commercial strategies and possibly inspired the third bid for Bryan Mbeumo. This is coming in from The Athletic. Well, look, I don't know whether that was circumstance, chance. I think we all think Newcastle probably inspired it more than anything else, but this is quite interesting because the bid went in yesterday, didn't it? And apparently Wilcox, Berrada and Sir Jim are actually together. So did that prompt a little bit of action from Manchester United? Apparently they are very hopeful that the Brentford bid will be accepted, 65 million plus 5. But they are in a race against time to get it all sorted for the team flight to Chicago on Tuesday. Lisandro Martinez also set to be on the plane should doctors allow it. He's not fit to play, but it's seen as good for him to be around the team. He's apparently progressing well. He's doing an individual program at Carrington. However, the club has been reluctant to give a date for his return. I think with Martinez, we've always been of the opinion on this channel, and the information we had about 3 months ago about Martinez from our source on the training ground is that it's not Ruben Amorim, is that Lisandro Martinez would be back after the international break, sort of September time, late September. So I think that's still about right. It's the middle of July. And by the time we come back from the international break, it'll be the middle of September. So I think that's still on the cards. This is really interesting from The Athletic. I don't know what your thoughts are about this. So Jim Radcliffe did propose to Ruben Amorim. No, I've read that wrong. So Jim Radcliffe did propose that Ruben Amorim join the trip But after discussions, United's co-owner accepted that the team's head coach needed to be with his squad exclusively in the build-up to the season. Amorim will instead lead a session at Carrington this morning before boarding a plane with his staff and players to Stockholm in the afternoon, staying overnight in order to be ready for tomorrow's game. So apparently, I don't know how true that is. So Jim Radcliffe was going to get Amorim over for the chat, which, I have to say, strikes me as a little bit silly, considering it is pre-season. But look, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this Stockholm couple of days meeting between Sir Jim Radcliffe and Omar Berrada and Jason Wilcox, because we are in July and we are staring into a situation where, to be honest with you, as much as we could be hours away from a here we go, we are still technically very much in the same situation that we were yesterday and the day before that. We've sold nobody and we bought one player. So technically we are still in that situation, aren't we? So we do still need to see some movement, and hopefully that meeting that is taking place with Sir Jim and Berrada and Wilcox will be prompting us to do other things. My takeaway from this week, and I think it's always important to do that on the Friday news show, my takeaway from this week is that technically we haven't got the Mbeumo deal done this week. We still got time, but we haven't actually got it done. And factually, we haven't sold anybody again. So another week, the third week of July, still nobody sold, still nobody bought. And that, to me, is still not good enough. I'm confident this Mbeumo deal will get done, but it has been since June the 1st. So 7 weeks now. And I don't feel like we're close to anything with the sales. And I don't count Jadon Sancho. I know some people do, but I don't count Jadon Sancho as a sale because I thought we'd sold him last year. So I'm still very concerned that we've got Frisky says no sales Ineos Masterclass Champers. But on a serious note, I am still very concerned because I was labouring under this mistake, if I'm being blunt, that we would see Garnacho and Rashford and Anthony want to move quickly because of aspirations for themselves and for the World Cup next year. And I don't know. I don't know. The world's full of speculation, of course it is, but I don't know whether ego is just taking over these people, because if I was Garnacho, I'd be quite concerned that I'm basically being booted out of Manchester United at 21, because that's what's happening. Like, we're not going to get full price for him, and it seems to me that hasn't actually registered. It seems to me like the information we got on the morning of after the Europa League final was it's 100% over, and that's why we ran with it. And that was from the players' side. It's 100% over. He's leaving, but that wasn't actually his decision. That was it was 100% over, probably from Amorim's side. We just didn't get it from the club, and ever since then, it's the Villa shirt. It seems to be that whoever's around him or him himself, they seem to think they're in control of the conversation. They seem to think that, I want to play in the Premier League and I want to leave Man United. But the bottom line is you've been booted as well. You've not made that. You're not like Ronaldo going, I want to leave to go to Real Madrid. You're a 21-year-old who's been booted out of Man United, who might have to go to Villa or might have to go to Spurs, or, so I think that I'm a little bit disappointed in Garnacho, because fantastic talent, but where's the desire to go and play football? It seems like he's sort of following the Rashford code of conduct, where it's like, I believe I'm better than I am. I'm going to wait this out and make it different. They seem to be motivated by making it difficult for Manchester United. And it's a foreign policy to me. And I don't mean like, immigration or anything like that, or, oil prices or importation of corn. I mean, like it's not something I'm used to, because I'm not knowledgeable about this at all. If I was in Garnacho's shoes or Rashford's shoes, the only thing I'd want is a pre-season. It's so important. The game is so much about fitness. I'd want a pre-season and a fresh start, and I wouldn't be motivated by proving people wrong. And I find it confusing that there's some sort of power play going on. And at 21 years of age, you shouldn't be motivated by a power play. You should be motivated by wanting to play. And there is nothing happening with it. In the case of Rashford, it's a little bit different because he's a little bit older. But yeah, it is a weird one to me. I'm going to talk about Sesko in a moment. A few people are talking about that, but I just want to go through some of your questions. I want Radcliffe negotiating with Sesko just for the laughs. Lad might have a heart attack, says Space Oddie. They're probably in Iceland shop to cut costs as United staff. They're getting the burgers, aren't they, in for the barbecue? But yeah, sorry, some people think that Sir Jim Radcliffe and Jason Wilcox and Omar Berrada are in Iceland, the country, having a meeting. They've actually rented out one of the offices at Iceland in Manchester, the actual frozen food place. So no, they're not actually in Iceland, the country. That makes it sound really exotic. No, it's just a cheap place that they actually rent out their team staff briefing room in central Manchester. It's really cheap. So in fact, I think they might have got it free as long as Sir Jim Radcliffe walks out with an Iceland t-shirt on. 19 Mbeumo, 19th tomorrow. Man United new 19. Here we go. That used to be a thing, Stephen. I'm not even going to mock you. That used to be a thing. Remember, I think we did it with Wan-Bissaka, didn't we? We actually a couple of years ago that used to be a thing. By getting here we goes on, but no, I think that'd be more about the official thing, wouldn't it? I don't think we give a shit about here we go. United won the league, done that one from Faisal. Thank you very much. Surprising when you let your family be your agents, is Slow Sports News. Yes, definitely. Not really sure why people do that, to be honest with you. Let's talk about Sesko. A few people talking about him. To be fair, Ben Jacobs mentioned it, didn't he, yesterday? Sam mentioned it as we mentioned it last night. A few people talking about it this morning. David Ornstein spoke about it back in April. Sesko's been on Man United's list for a long time, and I don't think we really touched on it in a fair way last night. We just sort of mentioned the news. My knowledge around Man United and Sesko goes back way, many years ago into the Ten Hag era. He's a player that we've been looking at for at least 3 years, ever since he burst on the scene. So at Salzburg, wasn't it? So Sesko is a player that Man United are very, very aware of. You would think that interest might die when Ten Hag left, because it was very much a Ten Hag era thing. But we have got Favel, who's got ridiculous connections with the RB group. So I think that it would be remiss to not to completely dismiss any prospect of a Sesko deal. Having said that, I have to resort to logic and say that this would be an incredibly difficult deal to do when you consider that we have really struggled to do deals like Mbeumo and Cunha to a certain extent. Even though it was a release clause, it still took us 6 weeks. I don't know how you go and deal with Leipzig and Sesko when we know Arsenal couldn't deal with them. Now, I'm not saying that Arsenal wanted Gyökeres over Sesko or they wanted Sesko over Gyökeres. They lined 2 deals up. But they never got to a point with Leipzig anyway. And it was actually Sesko's agent who said, we're not going to disrespect Leipzig, are actually going to help Leipzig. So I don't know that you're going to wander into that deal and be able to do anything that's not expensive. And I think the issue I would have with Sesko is you could end up spending 70, 80 million pounds on a player that's not actually in our top 3 priorities. And that's where I would argue. I would say, well, he isn't. There might be reasons why he's not, but Delap was plan A, probably because he was cheap. Gyökeres was plan B, because that's going to be the player that obviously Amorim would like to get, and he's gone to Arsenal. Ekitike was a player that we were big admirers of, but we can't get into the race for whatever reason. We've also spoken about Watkins. So Sesko would be like a plan D, but he's probably going to be the most expensive. So it seems a little bit weird to me that we might end up spending money that apparently we don't have on a striker that, if we'd gone for him first, but then Arsenal didn't get him. So I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how Man United are going to operate in this window now. And it's not an exciting thing. I don't know how we're going to operate in this window because we need a goalkeeper. We need a striker. We've spent £125 million on Mbeumo and Cunha. What's left? And what's left? And what I mean is what's left in the budget and what's left in the market. Because I think any deal you work on now becomes difficult. And honestly, 3 years ago, under the Glazers, I'd have said we might sign Sesko because they're just capable of throwing big money at something. But under this ownership model, I just don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. Look, there was a story from, I think it was DiMarzio this morning, who, if he was throwing darts at a dartboard, watch out for your windows, because he doesn't hit anything for United. But he is basically saying that AC Milan are looking at Rasmus now. I do feel a little bit sorry for Rasmus because it feels like we still might sell him, even though I think he thinks he might be staying. And that, to me, is poor planning. But I feel like he could go and a new striker could come in. And I think that might need to happen, if I'm being honest. I think if a new striker is going to come in, I was always against it, but I don't know where Xerxes is going to fit into this team. So if you sold Rasmus and you brought a striker in, you'd still have Xerxes and Obi who can play up front. And you've also got Mbeumo and Cunha, presuming Mbeumo signs. So I still think that Rasmus could leave. And is that United's plan? They're not going to buy a striker until Rasmus goes. I don't know. It's really difficult to predict what we're going to do over the next few weeks. But we do need a striker and we do need a goalkeeper. And the interesting thing is, it's worth watching the preview after this for the Leeds game. Because one of the scary things I saw, and I'd love to get your opinions on this, the squad is really big. It ain't good enough, but it is really big. And that's not taking into account people like Rashford, Garnacho, etc. So if I look at the goalkeepers, Anana, Biinda, Heaton, got 3 goalkeepers, the same as last year. If you look at the full-backs, you've got Mazraoui and Dalot. If you look at the centre-backs, you've got Maguire, Yoro, Martinez, Heaven, De Ligt. Luke Shaw can play there as well. You've also got Dorgu, Amas, left-hand side. You've got Ugarte, Casemiro, Collier, Mainu, Bruno in the midfield. You've got Xerxes, Mount, Ahmad, Cunha, and you've got Mbeumo potentially coming in. And then you've got Rasmus and Obi. So we actually have got a very big squad. Obviously, it's not good enough, but we're not getting rid of a lot of these players. So, and guess what? I didn't mention Malacia, Garnacho, Anthony, or Sancho, or Rashford. So we have got a very big squad. And I said this on the show last night. Leon, we've also got Leon as well. I knew there'd be somebody I'd missed. Thank you, James. I did say this on the show last night. I think we've had the wool pulled over our eyes a little bit by focusing on Garnacho and Sancho and Rashford, because actually none of those players started the Europa League final. And there's a lot of players that are staying at this club who should have been booted after last season. And it isn't Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho. Like, they do need to go. But I think we've focused on 5, haven't we? And at the end of the season, we were talking about 10, and we haven't renewed. I don't think we've removed enough. I think that squad, for a team that's not in Europe, I think we've got a very big squad of players that lacks quality. So that's why we're not getting Richard Rios. That's why we're struggling to get a goalkeeper. That's why we're struggling to get a striker, because I actually think Sir Jim Radcliffe, Joel Glazer are saying, you've got a really big squad, mate. Like you have got a really big squad, and we're not going to add to it until you get rid of them. What about a Garnacho plus 30 million for Sesko, says United Star? Where I think we're selling Garnacho to get profit into the club. We're not going to use Garnacho as an asset to spend money as well. Dave the Brave says, I know swaps are almost non-existent, but I really can see Garnacho at Leipzig. I think it would be a good move for him. I don't think he wants to go to Leipzig, mate. I really don't. And I don't think we've got 30 million to do it either. And I don't think it helps us. I think we need to profit, some pure profit. Amorim seems a lot happier in training now, likely because he's finally getting rid of the 5 players he didn't want at United. Maybe a few of them were behind the leaks from last season's chaos, says Kevin. Thank you very much for that, Kevin. Appreciate it. Let me just go to the news, see if there's anything going on. Yeah, look, the feedback we had last week and the feedback we've had this week is that the attitude on the training ground is really good. Everybody's working really hard. I think there's 1 or 2 players, I would say certainly someone like Rasmus, who could be playing for their futures. So apparently the intensity is really good. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I think I said it in the preview, I think I don't want to see complacency. I want to see performance. I want to see us win every game in pre-season. I know that might not be realistic because you're going to make changes and etc. But that's why I don't really want to take any deadwood on the tour. I don't want to take any, it'd be nice to have a look at them. If it's a young player we're going to use, I want it to be a young player that we're going to use. I don't want it to be a young player that we're looking to loan to League Two. I don't want to use a squad player that we're going to sell. And this is why I'm really happy that Garnacho and that lot aren't going, because we've done it before. Like, it's like Wan-Bissaka last year when we were picking him on the US tour, and he's going to leave. That's basically in a sentence what I don't want. I don't want to watch players on the tour that have got no future at the football club. I want every player that's coming on to be playing for their future, to have a future, and that's really, really important. So yeah, that's certainly what I want to see. And look, we're going to have to put up with the likes of Luke Shaw. We're going to have to put up with the people, Mason Mount, etc. But their challenge is to stay fit. It's funny. It's almost to the day we were talking about Mason Mount, and I said, Mason Mount last year, I said he's got to stay fit. He's got to stay fit till Christmas. I think he didn't. The same thing, Mason Mount. Amorim likes him. I don't know where he fits into the team. Where does Mason Mount start for Manchester United? I asked the question about Mainu. Where does Mainu start? Where does Mason Mount start? And that's for them to solve, because I think we all know that they're good enough, but where do you start? Because I think the midfield is Bruno and Agate, or Bruno and Casemiro. I think the number 10s are Cunha and Ahmad, or Cunha and Mbeumo. And I think the striker is Xerxes or Rasmus. So I don't know where Mount starts. I don't know where Mainu starts. But that's a hell of a good option to have off the bench, isn't it? Nishank says 20... Well, look, we're going to get injuries as well. I don't like to use that word, but we're going to get injuries. And that's something I don't want on pre-season. We've had really bad pre-seasons. I think, was Rasmus injured for pre-season last year? And Yoro in the same game. I think Rasmus and Yoro were out for a long time at the start of last season. Yeah, Rasmus and Yoro got injured in the States last year. So yeah, we don't want to pick up any injuries, do we? Do you think signing Cunha and Mbeumo will have a knock-on effect on Ahmad's development? He's not a right wing-back for me, says Dave the Brave. Look, we're swamped in the number 10. Technically, we're swamped in the number 10. Mount, Xerxes, Ahmad, Cunha and Mbeumo. Like, one of them's got to be playing in a different position. Maybe Xerxes up front, maybe Ahmad on the wing. 28% or not, Ineos took charge of football side. It is their responsibility to buy players, says Nishank. I don't think anybody agrees with you, pal. Sorry, I don't think anybody disagrees with you, pal. I really don't. I get the feeling that we're all just assuming that Ahmad's going to play as a right wing back. But I don't know why, because Amorim loves Delo. So I don't know why Ahmad's playing as a right wing back in this team when Amorim loves Delo. Like, there's some, as I said, go and watch the preview after this, because it gets you thinking. We are so submerged in the transfer news that when you actually look at that preview and you see the team next to me and then you see the players that aren't there, you genuinely do start to think, how's this going to work then? And I think we are hopefully going to have a lot of competition for places, but there's one position that stares out massively when you look at that preview, and it's the goalkeeper. It stands out like a sore thumb. It really, really does. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Apologies for the problems at the start. Thankfully, we kept going. That was on me, so apologies for that. Hopefully, we'll get a here we go today. We are live again at 2 o'clock, and we have the 8 o'clock show as well. We've got a watch along tomorrow. There is a preview that you can go and watch now on the homepage, and I would implore you to do that. Check it out, the Leeds preview. Brand new graphics on there, but take a look at it. And I will speak to you soon in relation to that. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Have a great day. Speak to you a little bit later.